With the release of Taylor Swift's 11th studio album titled The Tortured Poets Department, or how some fans have jokingly called TTPD, both the critics and the general public have been scratching their heads and wondering if Taylor Swift has been too high on her own supply. With a staggering 2-hour run and 31 songs on the double album, the album received very mixed reviews and garnered not so positive comments about Swift's musical direction and tone-deaf lyricism. It seems like the only portion of the public that has given the album rave reviews are the most loyal of her fans, aka the Swifties who at this point will consume everything that she produces without an ounce of criticism, and major media outlets that are on her payroll. When an artist demands that the art that they produce isn't eligible for any form of criticism, the art ceases to exist and becomes a mere product that needs to be mindlessly consumed. No thoughts, just consume. And that brings me to probably the most jarring aspect of the album. Not like the album doesn't suffer from many faults to begin with. The hypocrisy of Taylor Swift and her cult of personality that completely overshadows the music that she releases. As somebody who has been a fan of Taylor Swift's music since the OG 1989 era, when the playful synth tunes were a perfect soundtrack to my early college years, I have to wonder, did Taylor Swift the brand consume Taylor Swift the artist and the person behind the typewriter? When the goal is to release as many vinyl variants as possible and sell copious amounts of questionable merch while simultaneously making a spectacle of your personal life, the art suffers in the process, and the focus isn't on the music anymore, it's on Taylor. The same Taylor who has declared that her fans are trying to do a paternity test on every song that she releases, who has expressed how she finds speculation about her personal life invasive and creepy, has now released an album that has such specific lyrics about her X's and O's that the album just can't be enjoyable to an average listener who doesn't possess an extensive knowledge of the Taylor Swift cinematic universe. How very Marvel of her. The lore of the album needs to be consumed alongside the album for it to make sense. Any sense. The deep dive into her personal life, the same personal life that she defends so dearly, is now exploited and served to the masses. Is this song about Joe Alwyn, Maddie Healy, or Travis Kelce? Or is it about any other rumored boyfriend or girlfriend that she allegedly had throughout the years? That shouldn't matter, but it does. She wants us to point fingers, spend sleepless nights decoding every single lyric, and to assign it to specific people that may or may not have wronged her in the last couple of years. While there is an understanding that Taylor Swift is a very unreliable narrator, it is interesting how the narrative surrounding her personal life is being rewritten by her every couple years. Just like bloodhounds who are onto the scent of their prey, she understands that the Swifties are devouring this album and the lore behind it, purposefully feeding into the frenzy and rewriting the rules as she goes. She understands that to keep the public on its toes and to generate the revenue that has been previously forecasted, she needs to rely on the same tricks that she and her team implemented when she was just a teenager. The songwriting apparently is not enough to stand on its own toes. She needs the lore to push it further and make it more interesting. Can we just make interesting music instead, Taylor? Without the added lore and Easter eggs that Taylor has meticulously woven into the fabric of this album, the album lacks substance and can't stand on its own legs. It is plagued by the same watered-down synth-pop production that Jack Antonoff has consistently added to many of her newer releases that just feels tired and uncreative. Not to say that Jack is a bad producer, just an unmotivated one. He produced some of my personal favorite albums of the last 10 years, like Lord's masterpiece Melodrama and Lana Del Rey's Norman fucking Rockwell, that demonstrate that he can actually produce almost perfect albums when he's challenged by the artist that he collaborates with. With Taylor, it seems like their creative journey is coming to an end, and my biggest advice to her would be to try branching out and seeking new producers and collaborators on her next projects. With her track record of lending and emulating creative direction from her younger female peers, I would not be surprised to see her collabing with Daniel Nigro at some point to edge up her musical style. If he would have her, that is. The lyrical content in this album suffers a lot from Taylor's usual autobiographical and diaristic approach. It almost feels invasive, like sneaking into your younger teenage sister's room and reading the lyrics of her private journal. Some things should have stayed in the drafts. More is not always better, and there is such a thing as too much information. In the case of TTPD, I feel like the TMI that we've been getting in the album is being used as a weapon to make her more relatable to the Gen Z crowd, not like an authentic expression of a 34-year-old billionaire who has the whole world at her feet. What Taylor has been selling as her rawest and most honest album to date, most people, including me, are viewing as a drop in quality in comparison to her magnum opus that were Folklore and Evermore. In the title track, Tortured Poets Department, she writes, "You smoked, then ate 7 bars of chocolate. We declared Charlie Puth should be the bigger artist. I scratch your head, you fall asleep like a tattooed golden retriever," which is quite a choice in wording knowing who the song is allegedly about. The descriptive choices in her lyrics also imply that she's a victim of TikTok brain rot or is trying to appease the new generation of white American Gen Z Swifties who are her new target demographic. This isn't the first time that she uses the TikTok Gen Z slang to paint a picture in her songs. With songs like Down Bad, where she sings, "Now I'm down bad crying at the gym, everything comes out, teenage petulance," I am glad that she at least somewhat acknowledges that she really does sound like a teenager throwing a temper tantrum in the majority of her songs on this album. But I wouldn't count on too much self-awareness because in So High School, which is one of the more sonically interesting songs produced by Aaron Dessner, she continues comparing her newest relationship to a high school puppy love, but failing to do so without the audience getting a secondhand embarrassment from the following lyrics. "You know how to ball. I know Aristotle. Brand new, full throttle. Touch me while your bros play Grand Theft Auto." This song also includes the line, "I'm high from smoking your jokes all damn night." I can't help but agree with the excerpt of the review of Lomabeat.com where the author states, "The lyricism feels painfully regressive when compared to the lyrics of her 2008 hit 15, where she sings about life being more than falling in love with a boy on the football team. It is ironic how she's become the cheerleader she derides in You Belong With Me." The streak of half-assed football metaphors continues in The Alchemy, which sounds like it was commissioned by the NFL themselves, where she sings, "So when I touch down, call the amateurs and cut him from the team. Ditch the clowns, get the crown, baby, I'm the one to beat. These blokes warm the benches, we've been on a winning streak." He jokes that it's heroin, but this time with an E. And shirts off and your friends lift you up over their heads. Beer sticking to the floor, cheers chanted cause they said, "There was no chance trying to be the greatest in the league. Where's the trophy? He just comes running over to me." When talking about pettiness, Taylor Swift has plenty to go around for everyone, from a blatant stylistic and lyrical callback and honestly a ripoff of Olivia Rodrigo's Get Him Back, and her song I'm Gonna Get You Back, she hinges on the exact same wordplay and double entendres as Rodrigo did in her smash hit, but somehow manages to sound even more immature than Rodrigo, who is 15, almost 15 years her junior. In Thank You Amy, where she very deliberately capitalized the word Kim, she is bringing back the feud with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, and even dragging their kids into the drama, a drama that happened almost 10 years ago, in which she came out as victorious. Couldn't help but wonder if this is just one of the many red herrings scattered in her lyrics, as she usually does not spell things out this clearly, which is why many fans and critics speculated that this song is truly about her former best friend and possible ex-girlfriend, Karlie Kloss, who she had a huge falling out with for no disclosed reasons a couple of years ago. In Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, she lets out all the anger that she harbors towards the music industry, her fans, and haters alike. And even though this is one of her best songs on the album, she seems very self-indulgent on the song, too drunk on her own Kool-Aid, doubling down on how she is the victim of circumstances and how the public views her as someone who will, and I quote, "sue you if you step on my lawn," which is truly rich for somebody who did sue Olivia Rodrigo for Deja Vu and did try to sue a student who was tracking publicly available information about her extensive jet usage. Who's afraid of Taylor Swift? I really hope nobody, because in the end, she is a pop star who should learn accountability before the tides turn. Speaking of accountability, in her songs Daddy I Love Him and I Can Fix Him, No, Really I Can, she laments that the only reason that she is not with the main muse of this album is because the public and her fans protested too much and tried to tell her what's best for her. She addresses that she resents her fans for breaking up the love of her life and her due to their constant bitching and moaning, and declares that, "I'll tell you something about my name. It's mine alone to disgrace. I guess that the biggest issue wasn't her muse's racism and misogyny, thinly veiled as performance art and contrarianism, but her psychotic fans who dared to speak up about her muse's wrongdoings. And she would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Accountability? We hardly know her. But if her stance about racism wasn't clear enough already, she spells it out for her fans in I Hate It Here by saying, "My friends used to play a game where we would pick a decade we wished we could live in instead of this. I'd say the 1830s, but without all the racists." Woof! I'm so glad that we're on the same page, Taylor. You got me worried there for a second. So with the Tortured Poets department, we are left with 31 songs that have the same energy as "this meeting should have been an email." 2 hours into the album, I definitely felt tortured, bored to my tears, and wishing that I was listening to a Lana Del Rey record instead. Who knew that putting your journal entries to lo-fi beats you can study to can actually be this lucrative? Taylor knows that at this point in her career, she could recite a phone book or fart into a microphone and it would generate millions of dollars of revenue that her boomer dad would be more than happy to count in his finance bro hands. So as we bid adieu to the Tortured Poets department, let us remember the hard lesson it has taught us. If you are rich enough, you can declare immunity from critique and transform art into a product meant to be mindlessly devoured. All is fair in love and show business, and what are we if not entertained?